When I was standing on the stage with my certificate and everything, I was just thinking that no, I can't win. Like, that's just not possible. But then when they said West Island School, I still thought, nope, that's not me, because there was another girl from West Island School. Then they said my name, and then I thought they probably read wrong. But then when I realized that it was my name, I was overwhelmed and I was so excited because it was the first time I had won something like this, and it meant so much to me because I really enjoy writing. So first I would like to just say that actually writing is often underrated. So people often think that why should we write? Instead you can just do maths or you can just study, physics or something. But people don't really understand why we should write. But actually these days there are many studies that show that it is as important to exercise your right brain as it is to exercise your left brain. And writing is one of those skills that exercises both. Because it's not just about logic and spelling and things, but it's also adding creativity, imagination, thought process, etc. And that's really important because it trains you to be a more smarter person all around because you're training both sides of your brain. And writing also has many other benefits as it's calming. It helps you express ideas in a different way than just saying your ideas out. And it has many benefits like for example, it can help you improve your vocabulary, improve your grammar, improve your thought process, and it can just make you happy. So, one of the reasons you should join a writing competition is because many people sometimes don't have a purpose on why they should write. For example, they want to write, but they think, what will happen after I write? Will it just be thrown in the dustbin or something? But when you have a writing competition, you have a purpose. You're going to write something that's going to go and be judged, and then it's going to go into a competition in different rounds, etc. And that gives you a purpose to write, and that empowers so many young people to write. So to prepare for this competition, I had to do a lot of research because I had heard about the story before. In school we learned about the journey to the West, but I didn't really know too much about the background information and about too much about the characters and things like that and the time when it was written. So I first had to do a lot of research. Then I had to think of a plot for my story, and I also had to think of what style of writing I wanted to write, whether I wanted to do fiction or poetry or non-fiction. So I chose fiction because every year I've done poetry, so I thought maybe try fiction this year. And so I entered the fiction and I had to write based on my plot and based on the research. And it took a long time actually because usually when I write poetry, I can just write it quite quickly because you don't really need to write too much of a plot or anything for the poetry. But for the fiction, I really enjoyed it actually because it was something different and you could be more expressive because you don't really need a structure or anything. You can just write paragraphs and different sentences and things like that. And then we had to give it to our teacher who chose the best from our school and then sent it to the competition. Yes, winning the category has encouraged me to write more fiction. Because in the past, as I said before, I always wrote poetry. And I always thought, why write fiction? Because it's so much work. You have to find the climax, you have to write a plot, you have to find characters. But when you're writing poetry, you can just kind of add rhyming words and write lines of things. But when you're writing fiction, it's so much more work and so much more effort that I always thought, why do this? Like, instead, we can just write a poem. But now I think that I found a new joy for writing fiction because you can be so much more expressive and you can write in more different styles and you can write about many different topics without the constraint of writing to a specific meter or rhyming words or things like that. And I've always liked to come up with my own stories. So now I found a new joy in putting down those stories and making them more interesting and writing about them. And I think that's the lovely thing about fiction. So yes, I am entering this year's competition and I have two tips, one about research and one about writing skills. So my tip about research is Many people always think that research is boring and things like that, but research is one of those things that can really help you in your writing, because if you don't have enough research, then the judges may think that like what you've written is not valid, or you've not done your research, or it's not true, or it doesn't have anything to do with the theme. But once you've done your research, you feel more confident because you know more about the topic, so it's easier to write, and you can go above and beyond and write more things, and you can write about more interesting things because you know more about the topic as a whole. And about writing skills is add emotion into the writing. So for example, you shouldn't just write. For example, if I'm writing a story about something that's happened in my life, I'm not going to write just exactly what happened, like every single event. I'm going to write about how I felt in the events, or how other people felt, or how I enjoyed it, how I felt sad, things like that, because that's what makes your writing more interesting, and what can touch someone's heart more and help them enjoy the writing more. And on a funny note as well, make sure that you always stick to the word count, because I've always written more than the word count, and sometimes I can't even submit my entry because it's too long. And also make sure you write well in advance and don't leave it to last minute, because I've done that a lot as well.